Imagine owning 40% of the entire world's mobile market. You aren't just a company, you are a global religion. In the early 2000s, if you didn't have a Nokia in your pocket, you simply didn't have a phone. They were kings. They were indestructible. Their batteries lasted for weeks. You could drop them from a skyscraper and they'd still ring. But at the summit of their power, something fatal happened. The king didn't just lose the crown. He vanished. How does a $300 billion empire turn into a footnote? It's about the deadliest weapon in business, arrogance. To understand the fall, we must understand the birth. Nokia started in 1865 in the Finnish forest. They made paper. For decades, they sold rubber boots and tires. This harsh environment built their core DNA, Sisu extraordinary grit. In the 1990s, they were a mess of different industries. From gas masks to TV, they were lost in the chaos. Then came Jorma Aula. He took giant scissors and cut everything. Focus, he said. We bet it all mobile. They bet on GSM, a new digital standard. It was a gold mine. Suddenly, Nokia was the most profitable company in Europe. They were the pride of Finland. If Nokia sneezed, the whole country got sick. They were 25% of Finland's exports. The Nokia 3310 became the DNA of a generation. Everyone knew the ringtone. Everyone played Snake. Life was perfect. But this success created a black hole. Nokia began to believe hardware was everything, and software was just extra. They were so busy designing 50 new models a year that they forgot the soul of the device, the operating system. And then, disaster struck from a direction they never expected. A new neighbor from California was coming. January 9th, 2007, the world was about to change forever. A man in a black turtleneck walks onto a stage. He held up a piece of glass. No buttons, no keyboard. Just a glowing rectangle, the iPhone. In Finland, Nokia executives watched the presentation, and they did something fatal. They laughed. It's just a toy, they said. It breaks when you drop it. Nobody wants to type on a screen. Nokia was obsessed with the brick. They believed the phone was for talking, not a computer for your pocket. Their engineers were arrogant. They had 10,000 patents. They thought they owned the future because they owned the past. But Apple wasn't building a phone. They were building an ecosystem, a walled garden that traps users forever. Nokia's weapon was Symbian, an operating system that was ancient, slow, and a nightmare for developers. While iOS was a smooth highway, Symbian was a dirt road filled with potholes and dead ends. The App Store changed the game. Suddenly, it wasn't about the plastic. It was about the apps. Nokia had none. Nokia tried to respond. They released the N97, the iPhone killer. But in reality, it was a software disaster. It was buggy. The software crashed constantly, like putting a Ferrari engine inside a wooden ox cart. Google saw the opportunity. They released Android for free, and the trap for Nokia began to close. Nokia was stuck in the middle, too slow for Apple and too expensive for the Android wave from China. By 2010, profits started to vanish. The giant was bleeding, and that blood was made of dollars. But Nokia's true tragedy wasn't Apple or Google. It was inside the dark hallways of their Finnish headquarters. It was a culture of fear. Top executives didn't want to hear bad news. They only wanted to hear that everything was great. The result? Fake reports. Software projects that were failing but reported as on track. Sir, iPhone is winning.
Brand is king.
Don't worry, we have the brand. The brand is everything. They were stuck in an echo chamber where everyone said what the boss wanted to hear to get promoted. While Apple and Google engineers worked all night to change the world, Nokia bosses were busy with endless meetings. Nokia had 10,000 software engineers, but they were divided by internal wars between departments. They spent more time fighting each other than fighting the competition, a suicide from within. By the time honest reports finally hit the CEO's desk, it was too late. The ship was already torpedoed. Finnish pride had become a burden. They couldn't admit they had lost the game. In 2010, Nokia changed its blood. They hired their first outsider CEO, Stephen Elop from Microsoft. Elop looked at the reality and wrote a memo that shook history: the burning platform. We are standing on a burning oil platform, and the water around us is freezing. The message was clear: either jump and change or stay and be burned alive. But Nokia's jump wasn't into a lifeboat. It was into the arms of another giant. In 2011, Nokia made its most shocking decision. They killed Symbian and chose Windows Phone as their only savior. Why not Android? If we choose Android, we'll be like everyone else. We'll lose our identity. It was an all-in gamble. They believed Finnish hardware and American software would create a third superpower. And so, the Lumia series was born, colorful, smooth, and truly different. But there was a deadly problem. The Windows Phone App Store was as empty as a ghost town. Developers didn't want to write apps for Windows. And users didn't buy phones because there were no apps. Nokia was trapped in an endless loop of failure. Lumia sales never met expectations. Meanwhile, Apple and Samsung were collecting all the profits at the table. Nokia was left with crumbs. By 2013, Nokia could no longer stand on its own. They were forced to sell themselves to survive. Microsoft bought Nokia's device business for $7.2 billion. A tiny price for an empire once worth $300 billion. Thousands of employees in Finland lost their jobs. The heart of this country officially stopped beating. At the final press conference, CEO Stephen Elop said bitterly, "We didn't do anything wrong. But somehow we lost." An admission of helplessness against the tide of time. Nokia wasn't wrong because they made bad products. They were wrong because they made right products for a world that no longer existed. This is the most expensive lesson in business. If you don't destroy yourself to move forward, your competitors will do it for you. Nokia wasn't the first to fall, and they certainly won't be the last. History always repeats itself. Look at Apple today. They dominate the world, but are they following Nokia's footsteps? When a company gets too big, they fear change. They protect what they have instead of creating what's next. Apple used to be the God killer, but now they are the God sitting on a plastic. No, a titanium throne. And then the next revolution hits. Artificial intelligence, AI. It doesn't need a phone. It needs your brain. If Apple or any giant is too slow with AI, they will become the second Nokia in the blink of an eye. The lesson of Nokia is, success is the biggest obstacle to evolution. It blinds you. The more you have to lose, the less you dare to risk. And in business, not risking is the biggest risk of all. The world doesn't owe you a lead forever. It only owes you a chance to change before you're replaced. Nokia still exists today, but only as a shadow of its former self in the network equipment industry. They learned the lesson, but the price was global dominance. A price too high to pay. So, are you building your empire? Or are you building a wall around your own arrogance? Next time you hear that old Nokia ringtone, remember, even gods can fall. Don't let today's success become the grave for your tomorrow. Always keep a survivor's heart, the Finnish Sisu spirit, but never forget to look forward. While Nokia was busy fighting Apple at the high end, another threat was quietly growing from the east. China. Names like Huawei, ZTE, and later Xiaomi began to flood the market with impossible prices. They did what Nokia used to be best at, making cheap phones for billions. but they did it faster and cheaper. Nokia was caught in a death pincer. Apple took the rich customers, and China took the mass market. Why should I buy a $100 Nokia when I can buy a full-featured Chinese phone for $50? When they could no longer sell phones, Nokia turned to their final weapon: patents. They sued Apple, sued HTC, sued everyone. They became a patent vampire to suck blood from competitors. Legal battles lasted decades. Nokia earned billions from royalties, but they lost their soul. They were no longer a company that made great products. They became a law firm that collected cash. The irony: even when they won in court, their market share kept vanishing. Money couldn't buy back innovation. Meanwhile, the Android ecosystem had become too powerful. It was a tsunami that no patent could stop. Nokia tried to create MeeGo OS to save themselves, but they abandoned it too early to chase Microsoft. It was mistake after mistake, a chain of terrible decisions driven by panic. They forgot their Sisu philosophy. They were no longer resilient. They were just struggling in vain. And so, the night officially fell on Nokia's mobile division. An inevitable end. After selling the mobile division to Microsoft, the world thought Nokia was dead. They were wrong. They went back to their roots: network infrastructure. If they couldn't sell phones, they built the roads they run on. Today, Nokia is a 5G giant. They are the brains behind cell towers all over the world. You might not hold a Nokia phone anymore, but your calls are likely passing through their equipment.
Amazing.
They learned how to live in the shadows. No more glory, but full of hidden power. But what about the Nokia name on phones? That's a story of a soul in someone else's body. A company called HMD Global bought the brand rights. They tried to revive legends like the 3310. Nostalgia is a powerful weapon, but it's not enough to defeat the dominance of iPhone or Android. It's just a bitter reminder of a golden era that is long gone. So what do we learn from the death and silent rebirth of Nokia? Lesson 1. Never underestimate a nameless competitor. Apple was once seen as a lonely computer company. Lesson 2. Listen to the truth, even if it hurts. Fear kills innovation. Lesson 3. You can't use yesterday's mindset to solve tomorrow's problems. The tech world is a fast-moving river. You can't stand still. Standing still means moving backwards. Today, we stand on the brink of a new revolution. AI. Artificial intelligence is changing everything. Will Apple be the next Nokia? Or Google? Or maybe the company you work for? The answer lies in the ability to kill yourself, to be reborn. Dare you break the old to build the new? Nokia failed because they loved their product too much. Don't love the product. Love the solution. If the solution changes, you must change. No exceptions. No excuses. Nokia's journey is history's most expensive warning. A $300 billion empire turned into smoke. But it's also a lesson in hope. Even if you lose everything, the Sisu DNA can help you start over. Nokia is still there, silently connecting the world in ways we don't see. Maybe one day, they will come back with something crazier than a phone. But until then, use this story to reflect on yourself. Are you leading or are you sleeping on the summit? Thank you for joining us on this journey of dissecting this empire. If you found this lesson valuable, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next falls. And let me know in the comments, who do you think will be the next Nokia? Stay curious, stay humble, and never let arrogance kill your future. Goodbye, and remember, the end is just a new beginning. See you in the next one.